Welcome back to my workshop. Now this is the third and the final episode of this series of videos where I make this dog crate piece of furniture. In the previous videos, the first one I built the cage, which was this one, so just basically assembling the cage. Then in the second one I showed you how I made the side cabinet, and now in the third one what I'm going to do is show you how I make the top. Now there's been a design change on the top, but let's get straight into it and I'll show you how I did it. Right, so the door is now done. It's changed from a plain door to a shaker style door. So that was a change in design. But now there's been another change. The top was originally going to be made out of scaffold boards, just about 2 or 3 scaffold boards put together, cut to length, job done. That's now changed. What I've got here is a dining table. Now this looks like it's an oak dining table made of block board. What I've got to do is take this apart, see how much wood I've got in this, because I need to salvage enough wood for the top of this and also another shelf. So let me quickly show you the construction of this table before I take it apart. Okay, so this is block board. I think it's oak. Could be beech? No, I think it's oak. Oh, it's quite a nice wood. Right, it's got these cross braces, which I suspect are also stuck on but screwed as well. If you look here, it's got screws. There's some side rails which obviously make it look like it gives it some depth. So this bit's got to come off, and then I've got to mirror this bit. So basically take these corners off, take these off, and then see how much of this I can actually use. Should be able to use it all. Let's see what I can do. Right, let me start taking this apart. That's enough of that waffle. Right, so lucky for me, this wasn't all stuck. The ends are stuck, these bits here, so I'll have to be careful when I use them. But I've ended up with the 2 rails here. Okay, they've come off in one piece. The 2 ends have come off in one piece. The struts have come off. I've got small screws, slightly larger, even larger, quite long, and then loads of brackets which I can use here to replace the ones I've actually used on the dog cage. And these little bits here will go on the fire and keep me nice and warm. Right, so now I can start cutting this to size. Right, so what I've got to do is, this is about 70mm too long now. I'm going to cut it off this end because there's a little tiny bit of damage here. Doesn't look much here, but once it's a final piece of furniture, it might show up. So I'm going to cut it off here, and then what I'm going to use is that strip, this whole strip along here. I'm actually going to put it as an insert under here, so it looks like a big solid piece of wood. So another cut along there to get rid of this. Right, I've now got to cut the length. Obviously my Festool rail is not quite long enough. It's 1.4 meters long, but this just shows you the actual Titan tracks, which are 70 centimeters long, actually marry up quite well with the Festool ones. So if you've ever wondered, they do work. Right, so I've now got it spanned the entire length. I'm going to do this in a couple of cuts because I need a really nice finish. So I'm going to do a scribe cut first and then cut through the whole lot. And hopefully it'll work. Right, let's have a little bit of a catch up here. I've been doing the top, obviously. I've cut off about a third of the original table, and I've got to make the most of the wood I have because the remainder of the wood needs to be used for a shelf on the other side of the fireplace. So what I've done is some of the offcuts, I've stuck them on the ends to make it double thickness, to give it that chunky look. I've stuck these slightly proud, so then I can cut them off with a track saw to make sure that they're all flush. In the middle here, I want to give it a little bit of support so it also sits flat on top of the dog cage. And what I'm going to have to use is some MDF. I'm going to use 18mm MDF because it's the same thickness as the original wood. So there'll be a batten across the back like this, and then I'll cut some more to make struts across here. Now the MDF is going to be screwed in because obviously the wood's going to expand and contract at a different rate than the MDF, and I want to give it a little bit of free play. So that's where we are with the top so far. I'll crack on with this and then we can get this mounted on top of the dog cage. Right, so that's the structure done underneath. I've got my cross braces here and then my back slice at the back. I had a bit of trouble with the ends here because I've cut them, the way I cut them across the grain, there wasn't a great deal of support in the wood. So when I've gone to cut it off on the corner, just so I can move it around, that corner snapped off. So I've had to do a bit of a repair there. You won't be able to see that because it's all going to be sanded. But now I can turn this over and it'll be supported underneath. Right, I'm going to quickly try this on top of the dog cage. Right, so I've now put my table saw back under the bench, so I've got enough room. This is just laid on the top now. Obviously it's not fitted in, I've got to fit it from underneath, and obviously the cabinet's got to be painted. The edges here, as I said, I left them a little bit proud, so what I've got to do is run my track saw across there, then give that a good sand. Same with the other side. Yeah, it's a bit proud here, so track saw, sand. Then I'll have to do a round over on all the edges because we've got things like this. Okay, little bits of nastiness. And the whole thing is really dry. Okay, so it's never been treated or oiled or anything by the looks of it. So I'm probably going to wax it, but first I'll have to give it a good old sand down. But the next thing is get some screws in from underneath in the brackets I put in earlier on, and then trim it up. Right, so the top is now temporarily screwed to the cage and the cabinet. What I've done is I've had to make some changes because obviously the brackets I made were supposed to screw into scaffold boards, but because I'm now using the tabletop, there's a void inside. So I've had to put some little blocks in just to accept the screws, but it's secure enough. What I want to do now is, before I sand the hell out of this, I want to do a quick round over on the edges, something like this sort of profile, just a simple round over. And to do that, I've got to use my small router. Okay, so let me route it. Okay, I've just done a very gentle round over here. It's surprising how much of a difference it makes. Plus there was some damage on this corner, which I seem to have got most of it off. Got a little bit of a track saw scar here, which I'll get off when I sand. So I think I'll quickly hit this with a bit of sanding and then take it all apart again. Right, I've now given this its first sand. The problem is there's still some witness marks here. Where are we here? No, we've still got some purple felt pen, which obviously is where it was a dining table. People have used it for colouring. And there's also some blue over here still. There's a few scratches, but I think we can live with those. But overall, it's looking good at the moment. Right, so that's pretty much all of the woodwork done. The next step is going to be a bit of a pain. I've got to take it all apart. So the top's got to come off, the cabinet's got to come off, all of the metalwork's got to come off, so I can put some paint and some wax on it. Okay, so let's take it all apart. What I'm going to do now is quickly wax the top. Now I want to wax underneath as well, so I'll do that first, then flip it over and then wax the top. But it does mean I haven't got much room, so I've literally got about a foot to move around in. Right, let's get waxing. Right, so the paint is now dry enough on all of the components. The top has been waxed. It's had 2 coats of wax. First coat was this stuff, which is just finishing wax. And then after that, I give it a quick coat with this, okay, which is from Leo from Handicraft, okay, Canuba wax. So this is feeling lovely. Okay, so look, I've got space in my workshop. Right, I've taken it apart as much as I can. What I'm going to do is try and see if I can get it all in the car. At the moment, it's in the hallway, ready to go in the car. Then I've got to take it to where it's going and then reassemble it. So hopefully it fits in the car. Right, so it's all in the car. I've managed to get it all in one go. We're just off round now to fit it. Well, I am anyway. And hopefully I'll have some photos for you in a moment. Right, so that's about it. It's all done now. We've gone from the initial concept drawing, which is this one, We built the cage, then we built a side cabinet, and then we used a reclaimed dining table to make the top. Now the remainder of the dining table is now here. It's been glued up to make a shelf for the other side of the chimney breast. Right, so that's all done. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. Sorry it was a bit long, and hopefully you've picked up some hints and tips. Right, that's enough for me. I'll see you in the next video. Bye. So let's quickly go over to the design centre and I'll show you. Let's start that again because that was wrong. But it's also got, if I can get this back in, I'm doing this all backwards. So make sure all your squares, so make sure all your corners are square, all the bars are. Right, so while I wait for the cabinet and the two drawers, right, so now the door is done. It's been changed from a plain door to a whatever it's called door. It's called a... Right, so I've had a little bit of a clear up, basically built more of a hoover up. Starting again because that's all wrong. So while this dries, it's probably been dry. And we're having a pint at the Dog and Trumpet.